This is Nottingham, this is how it looks like, and I loved it for the past 4 years, but I think I'm ready to move on and see some bigger world, and I'm ready for Paris. All year to Paris, and it was such an inspirational visit. We spent there, I think, 5 days, which is not long enough, definitely. I was actually standing outside some of the fashion shows and watching all these fashion figures I was always inspired by, and I was actually following Karin Roosevelt, I was following Anna Piaggi. It was just such an amazing visit, actually, and it was such a boost of energy, and it kind of reminded all of us what we're here for, and especially for me, a person who really wants to do the high fashion instead of high street, which is the case in most people's plans, actually. But I definitely want to someday work for a high fashion company, so that was just amazing visit for me, just to get my focus and then come back all fully energized and just aware of what I want to do with my life again. This is my portfolio. And then we started there are 2 competitions, FAD and River Island. This is my CV, some design rationale, what's behind the ideas, and collection. Basically, it started off with this glamorous idea of silent movies, but then I moved on and did very austere, I think, collection, something kind of different than what I started up with. And I pretty much based it on menswear, and I did some experience at Gifts and Hoax, and it was just such an inspirational time for me just to see how things should be done properly. But then my idea of fashion is just like to twist things around, to change it, to constantly look for things that are new and have never been done before. So that's why I actually changed it a lot and didn't end up doing anything classical. And then this is the fabric board and a couple of development pages. I always just draw constantly, and just most of my ideas actually come from drawing and redrawing and redrawing, and that's why kind of quite a lot of pages are based on this, so that you can see how my process of thinking goes. This is this final page with some spec drawings, fronts and backs of the collection, and this is like this page that finalizes the whole thing, and for me it's a kind of an essence of what I did. And few pages on the particular designs. This is this half-belted dress with power mesh see-through dress underneath that, and then there is this black gown with this special technique that I developed on the 2nd year, which is pretty much like taking the threads off. But if you do it very carefully, you can achieve this very nice see-through effect, which I think looked really spectacular in the catwalk. And then there is this another coat with some power mesh pieces underneath, and leather panels in here and in here. The cutout jacket with some horsehair on it. I used quite a lot of horsehair, actually. I used French, Polish and British horse to complete my collection. All the different horsehair I needed, different colors, and then there's another piece with some pocket cutouts and horsehair filling it. And this horsehair accessory, horse riding hat. And this jacket is very intricate. It's very simple, but then on the catwalk it looked pretty spectacular, because when she turned, there was this whole different dimension to this design in a way. And yeah, this is a FAD competition, the one I started off with, and I dedicated it to memory of my grandfather, because it was basically based on the memories and traces we leave behind. So the first personal part of it was dedicated to my grandfather and his stamp collection. So I ended up designing this laser etched dress with some real original stamp designs etched on the surface of the dress. And then the other outfit was dedicated actually to the collective memory, and it was based on this Polish city that's completely neglected now, and it was just amazing in the 19th century when all the cotton industry was based there, but now it's just decaying and no one really bothers about this, and there are not really many inhabitants anymore, and it used to be pretty amazing in the 19th century. So this is the other parts of it. And then the River Island competition. Some mood boards and some market research and the lineup. That's what I ended up designing. and then the spec drawings. It was very commercial, very different, but I did enjoy it as well, because it was just like the restrictions and the idea of compromising my own aesthetics with something that needs to be fancied on the canvas, needs to be sellable basically, was interesting as well. But I don't really want to do the high street in my life, definitely not, but it was interesting definitely as well. I must admit that at the very beginning stage of thinking about the creative project, I was struggling quite a lot, because, well, at the same time it should respond to the theme, obviously, but it shouldn't be something too literal, so I was trying to think out of the box a little bit, probably too hard sometimes, and nothing really came out to be satisfying enough for me. So, well, after a couple of days of thinking, drawing, and just waiting for this idea to hit finally, it did. So I was really happy to actually explore this idea of repetitive pattern, which kind of stands for the rituals in everyone's lives. So, and it also uses this language of design, being as small as creative pattern cutting, so that was really appealing. But then I actually thought that it doesn't have to be a flat pattern, it can be something very three-dimensional, so that all the patterns actually meet, all the patterns actually interact with each other, and that's how I see present, past and future being all constantly influencing each other and not existing without one another. So I really like this idea. And I actually end up doing this, but in a very different way, because I decided to remake an old shape, an old garment, jacket, into a cape. And cape because it's actually on the rounded shape, on the basis of the circle. And I laid all the patterns down on the circle and put some inserts in between the patterns from the jacket in order to achieve something very three-dimensional, very voluminous. So the circle stands for infinity, for this perfect shape and cyclical time, and that's what I wanted to present. That's the message I wanted to put across, that actually there are no boundaries, and everything comes back to us and after a certain time. So that's why I decided for this shape. And also the other thing that was really appealing to me was to use an actual existing garment, and the garment was the military jacket from 1980, and remaking it into something new, into something personal to me, and in a way to kind of support a garment which has a past with its own future, because otherwise I don't think that actually this one would have much of a future. It already had some holes and rips in it, and in this way I am kind of having both past, future, and present, as I'm standing here, all overlapping and or meeting in one shape. So that's what was really appealing. Also, when I was designing, when I was doing the pattern cutting for this shape, I wasn't really, well, I was planning it, but it wasn't totally designed in a way, so I was just like going with the flow, and that's how I see the future pretty much. You can plan it, but obviously not everything will go the way you expect it, so I kind of let this cape lead me wherever it wanted to lead me. And another aspect to the cape I've constructed is that actually I used the vintage fabric, which stands for the past, and combined it with the